Okay, Dom, I'm going to get started with a little introduction and I'll give a pass to you when I'm done.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay. 大家晚上好，非常感谢各位今天能够来参与这次的讲座，也欢迎各位的参与。今天呢，我们的主题呢是这个 pest control， 就是这个害虫的预防和处置。今天很荣幸再一次请到 Don Dell 呢来跟我们分享这个 topic。那他是当地的验房师，也有这个专业的 pest control 的证书所以有这个非常多的经验可以跟我们分享。今天呢，我们的程序呢是这样的，首先呢，他会跟我们分享一些。我已经翻译好的带有中文的这个 PowerPoint。那在我们他在分享的时候呢，我们会按照每一个就是这个inset来分享。然后呢，每次他分享完一个 inset 以后，他会看看大家有没有什么问题，然后我们再 move on to next。然后最后的话呢，也可以问他一些即使不是 pest related 别的房屋方面的问题，我相信他也会很 gladly 来 answer 我们的 question。那这是今天晚上的这个讲座，大部分的时间是由Don来主讲。那在他讲完以后呢，我会给各位做一些分享这个现在的 Golf 的这个房地产的这个 update， 包括现在的租房市场。所以在他讲完以后，第二部分由我来分享，跟各位分享这个 market update。所以这是今天晚上我们的这个安排。那么我们现在就把时间交给Don，然后呢，我们再等一下可以有些讨论。Okay, time to you, Don.
All right, so we're going to share a screen here. Just if you can just let me know when that shows up.
Yeah, it's already on.
Do you have the full screen?
Yeah, I have. Well, I think it depends on your view. The view.
You're not seeing my notes or anything. You're just seeing.
No, I don't see your notes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So thank you everybody for coming. So we're going to talk about pests that affect your home. This can be your personal home. This can be rentals, whatnot. It really doesn't matter. These pests can get into households. Just quickly, this is our team here. Myself, Susan, our customer service, and my business partner, Brian, one of our inspectors, and Mike, one of our inspectors. So just to let you know, we're a little bigger than just me. So today, the course goals are going to be, we're going to learn the characteristics of different types of pests. Okay. And we're going to know what to expect if these pests are present in the home and how to treat for them. The outline of the course is as follows. We're going to talk about how to control, what types of damage to expect, and what can be done to deter the pests' entry or damages. So we're going to talk about termites. We're going to talk about ants, birds, including woodpeckers, rodents, squirrels, rats, mice, and raccoons. They all fall under that rodents section. Bats, as somebody had already asked about, which is awesome. Cockroaches, bed bugs, bees.
And who come to Canada come from places where there are wars, and maybe the people.
Okay, somebody was talking there. Sorry. And other insects that may indicate moisture damages or damp environments, and that's an important one too. Knowing what types of bugs. So let's start with termites. And what are termites? So termites are a wood destroying insect. They like to get into buildings. Damage and they're damaging things because they're eating it. So they like to consume lumber, wood paneling, flooring, sheetrock, wallpaper. They can dig through plastics, mostly paper products, and other types of plant fiber if they're made from textiles made from plant fibers. The termites eat cellulose. So the fibers that are in wood and plants is what the termites want to eat. And that's what they're going after in your homes. So more than 2 million homes require termite treatment in North America each year. That's a lot, and a lot of homes that need to be treated. Homeowners insurance is great. It'll cover losses from wind and fire and all these other things, but it will not cover termite damage. And that's true in Canada and most of the US. There are some companies that will offer it, but it's very expensive and it's very rare to get. Termites are consuming wood and plant products. That's what they're doing. They're always hungry and they do not sleep. So they're eating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're pretty slow moving though, and that's the good thing. So termites aren't going to cause, we'll sometimes see pictures of houses that have fallen over due to termite damage. Those aren't the types of termites we're going to find here in Canada. The ones we have here are very slow moving. They take a lot of time, approximately 180 days for a colony of termites to eat 12 to 14 inches of a 2x4. So they're very, very slow moving. In this area that we're in, we have a significant termite population in Elora, Fergus, Guelph, pockets of Elmira. There's some in Kitchener, and we also have them in areas of the Greater Toronto area. I don't know why this doubled up, but Fergus and Guelph, sorry, doubled up on me. They are here, and they are being treated, and they are being looked after. We have management programs in place in order to keep them at bay. But knowing that we do have termites here is an important thing. It should not dissuade you from buying a home, but it should make you aware that if they're there, they need to be treated. And if you end up in a zone, we'll call it a termite zone, treatment would need to be done every few years in order to keep them at bay. These termites are being managed by the city and the county. So Wellington County has a termite program. The city of Guelph has a termite program. And they're doing a very good job at keeping them under control. Guelph has been one of the most used cases of termite management. They have done such a good job managing the termites and the spread of them that it's being used in other municipalities as well. So subterranean termites are what we have. This is what they look like. Hopefully nobody's eating. They're gross. They're translucent. They're white. This is a worker. You typically don't see the actual termite. What you will find are signs of the termites, which would be wood damage. And they build little tunnels out of mud. And those little tunnels they have out of mud, that protects them because they cannot come up to the air. Once they come up to the air, they die. So again, finding out that a home has termites, it makes people nervous. It makes them fearful about the home. And it really shouldn't, because it's easily treated and the damage is usually minimal. Unless it's gone uncontrolled for many, many years, the damage will be fairly superficial. You don't see them typically. You don't hear them. And generally only a trained inspector will find the signs of a termite, unless it's a pretty big outbreak of them. Unless it's a lot of damage to the home, very hard to see. We have in Southern Ontario, subterranean termites. The species is the Eastern subterranean termite, and that's the one that we find in Ontario. There are other types of termites all over the world, but in Southern Ontario, we're going to find the Eastern subterranean. They don't like light, and they need constant moisture. So exposure to regular air, if they come out of their mud tunnels or they come out of the walls that they're feeding on and get exposed to air, they will die within a couple of minutes. So you'd think they'd be easy to get rid of, but because they can hide so well, they can actually be a little difficult to find. So treatment for termites. Treatment, by the homeowner for termites is pretty much impossible in Canada. We cannot get the products off the shelf in order to treat. You need specialized equipment to treat. They need long probes that they're going to push into the ground and put Terminex, and they create a barrier around the home rather than spot treating. They're going all the way around the whole home every 16 or 20 inches and injecting a termicide in there, and that prevents the termites from crossing a barrier. And it really needs a professional to do, because there are things that can make that termite barrier not work. The treatment strategies that are undertaken by the pest control guys are going to run about $3,000 to $4,000 about every 3 to 5 years. So it's not insignificant, but it's not really a big thing. If you look at it in terms of a yearly cost, if you're doing it every 5 years, you're looking at $800 a year. That's not a huge thing to undergo. And a lot of people will buy houses right in termite areas knowing this, and you know what? It's just part of their budget. Okay, let's go back. Sorry. So with the end of termites, if anybody has a question here about termites or treatment, if you want to drop it in the chat or you want to just unmute yourself and ask, please do.
现在大家对这个白蚁这方面有没有什么问题？可以直接打开你的麦克风，或者是通过那个 chat 那个功能，可以打文字的方式也可以。I actually have a question, Don. Let me start. So
Absolutely.
you said that the city of Guelph has a termite treatment program, which I actually don't know about. So what do? Do they just come to your house and do it, or what?
No, so what they're doing is a management program. So
Okay.
the Dr. Miles from the University of Guelph is a leading entomologist in Canada with respect to termites. And he has come up with strategies. They trap termites to look at how they're breeding, how healthy they are, what they're eating. They're looking at where they find them and mapping the areas so they know where to treat.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing in terms of managing it. The actual treatment is done by the homeowner. Like the homeowner is responsible for treatment of their own home.
So are you saying, is there any area in Guelph that are particularly more prone to having termites?
Oh yeah, there's down along Queen Street, for example, is a termite zone.
Oh, good to
The old
know.
part on Queen Street. Yeah, that's under the bridge by the river. And
Yeah.
that's usually where you'll find, you generally won't find them in areas that aren't near water. That's why Ferguson Elora has a lot of termites, because the rivers run right through the middle of the cities, right? And there's lots of
Okay.
little streams and stuff. And they need that moisture in the soil or they will not survive. So
Right.
dry, sandy soils for subterranean termites is not going to work.
So for the city's termite treatment program, they are more likely treating in the areas that's not someone's house, but because you said
Correct.
that's a homeowner's responsibility. So
Yeah.
when they are treating it, it's more treating in public areas. Like
Yeah, and they have little traps they call bait traps, and they'll put them in certain areas, and they go and check them every week,
okay,
so they know if the termites are spreading or in other areas.
okay, good to know.
All right, anybody else? Sounds like everybody's pretty content there. So why don't we move on to ants then? And these are not ants like, oh, sorry, I won't make that joke, but so ants are known to invade our houses. I mean, I don't think there's a single person on here that hasn't had an ant in their house. So, you know, the prominent species that we're going to find are the Carpenter ant, which is the one we want to worry about. They have the little black ant. We have the odorous house ant. We have the thief ant. We have a Pharaoh ant, and we also have pavement ants. And these can become nuisances in lawns, gardens, and pathways as well. But they can also get into your home and build nests, and they're looking for food. Like I said, the Carpenter ant is the one that will do damage. Pavement ants can do a little bit. Pharaoh ants a bit, but mostly it's the Carpenter ant. And they're the biggest, and they can actually cause structural damage to a house. They're pretty voracious, and we're going to show you some pictures of them because there's so many different types of ants in the world that it's really impossible to look at them all, but we want to look at the ones that are most common. So here we're going to look through here. We have a Carpenter ant. This is the one we're really concerned about, and they do consume wood. They actually eat cellulose, so that's one thing we want to be careful of. Here's our Pharaoh ants, pavement ants, odorous house ant. That's probably the most common that you're going to see. And these little thief ants, you'll see them outside. Those are the ones you'll see carrying a big leaf on their back and getting, these go out and get the food. So they're very common to find. Now because it's the one we want to focus in on is the Carpenter ant. All ants are pretty much treated the same way in terms of how you get rid of them and what they're looking for. So, but let's talk about the Carpenter ant because this is the big thing. These have really distinguishing features that make them easy to identify. They're larger than other ants. They're about a half an inch or larger in length. So that's a pretty big ant. So large black ants. They have a shiny black body. That's important. And they have an evenly rounded outline of their thorax when you view them from the side. So if we look at this here, you can see how round that is. There's no flatness to it. And that's how you identify the type of ant it is. So how do we prevent ants from getting into our house? Well, we want to seal any cracks on the exterior of the home. That's the big thing. Even something as small as a very minute crack in a concrete, and especially in blocks, they can get in there and build nests. You want to get branches and tree material, anything that's close to or touching your home, because that's the highway for these ants to crawl up the trees and get into the under the siding and different areas. You wanted to get rid of any decaying or infested wood from around your house, because guess what? Ants are going to go for the easy meal. They're not going to look for a piece of hardwood that's dry. They're going to look for damp wood that's easy for them to consume. We never want to store firewood up against our house, and that's for any pests, including mice, rats, rodents, etc. Firewood is an invitation for insects to enter your home, and it also provides that moisture between the wood and the house, that space that's damp for these things to move and get into, because they don't like dry areas either. So, avoid burying tree stumps or other wood debris near your home. Take it away. If you have humidity issues in your home, such as, small leaks, it could be even a small plumbing leak, can invite these ants in as well, because they're looking for the moisture and the food. You want to keep food dry and in sealed containers. Ants want food. They want our food. They prefer our food than the stuff outside. So we definitely want to keep all our. Sorry, we got somebody that's going there. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be really nice. If everybody can just check. We want to remove food and water sources like leaky faucets, etc. Keep the place clean. And I mean, that sounds weird, but they want to they're looking for food. They're looking for places to hide. If the cleaner the place is, the less chance the ants are going to want to stay and establish a colony. An ant will find food, send out pheromones that'll attract the other ants to come in and eat that food. And that's why you'll see ants move along a line, because they've left a line of pheromones that tell the other ants where the good food is. So by continually cleaning and keeping your home clean, that can actually get rid of some of those pheromones as well. Don't keep any sugary foods out in the open. Ants love food. It's a great energy source. So they're going to go for sugary foods first, candies, spilt soda, fruits, for example. Those are great. They're easy for them to eat. They love it. And don't leave dirty dishes in your sink. They will get in there, and they're looking for a free meal. And that's the biggest thing. If there's one thing about ants that we can talk about, is to make sure that we keep as much food in sealed containers when you have an ant issue. Not all homes will, but if you get into this issue where we have ants in the house, this is how we're going to get them created. It's how we're going to take them down. But we also have to remember that we may have to do some treatments for these ants, because not all of that not always works, but it will help reduce them. So again, when we treat for them, first thing we want to do is reduce the entry points. If we're looking at the colony, we need to actually chemically kill them. That's the only thing that'll get rid of them, unfortunately. For ant hills in the yard, there's other treatments can be used, non-chemical treatments that can be effective, but they'll require frequent applications. And one common thing that I've seen is hot water. You get an ant hill, somebody will pour hot water on it, and it does work, but it doesn't. They don't take it back to the colony, and it doesn't kill the actual colony. It only takes care of the ants that are in that immediate vicinity. So these homeowner strategies, oftentimes will take care of it. They yield really good results. But if you can't get the results, you have to get a qualified contractor. And especially if you suspect you have carpenter ants. If you suspect you have large carpenter ants, you need to get a professional in. Treatment costs are going to vary between $500 and $2,000 depending on the severity. So earlier detection and treatment is going to be less costly than waiting till we have a huge infestation into the home. Any ant questions? No, we look pretty good there.
Sorry, Don, and
yes.
Can I ask you a question? I sometimes found some very tiny ants in my sink, and I don't know where they came from, frankly.
They're coming they're coming up through the basement, up the pipes, and they're looking for food. So the best thing in that case is a little bit of Raid, spray it, or some little, those, you can buy little ant traps. They're little round containers. And what they have is they have a poison in them that the ants will actually carry back to the colony, and that actually takes care of them. But those ants are looking for food. So they're probably, if we went back in, they're probably just a sidewalk ant or something like that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Anybody else? Esther?
No, we just to make a comment. I think ants is one of the least scary out of all the insects we're talking about today.
Yeah, they are. They're pretty innocuous, but they can be a pain in the butt. For most of the other ones, I mean, the problem with them is they get into the walls, they build nests, and then they can impact your insulation. They can, you know, they die. There's waste from them. So that stuff is going to build up in your walls. But if you have carpenter ants, that's the one to worry about. All right, well, we'll move forward from ants to birds, my favorite subject. Lots of different birds. You know, birds are one of those things that they can nest in your home and they can damage the home. Their feces are toxic. But the most damage you're going to get is generally from woodpeckers. And woodpeckers can really destroy the wood on the exterior of your home. So we can see here, this is the Downy Woodpecker here. And you know, this is a very common one in this area. We have another one that's a little bigger, pilated. And then this guy here, this is Woody the Woodpecker. If you've never seen the cartoon, you got to watch it. He also made good mufflers in the 80s, but we won't go there. So this is actually what we would find sometimes in attics. This is actually a picture from one of my inspections. This is a starling nest. So checking your attic is a good idea, but these birds are getting in somewhere. And that's what we need to take care of, is where are they coming in? Well, I can tell you right there that the screen is damaged on this gable end vent, and the birds are just coming in there. You can generally find where birds are going into the house by just sitting outside with a glass of lemonade and watching the outside of the house in the spring. You will know exactly where they're going in. They're not afraid of you high enough. They're not shy. They're not nocturnal. They're going to go in and out during the day. And it's very easy to see. This particular picture here are two pigeons, and these are baby pigeons. And you know, these, you can see the mess that's in here. And even here, this is underneath. Look at the mess. This is bird droppings and feathers and there's mites and fleas and all kinds of stuff to get in there. You know, the excrement from birds is toxic, and you can end up with something called histoplasmosis, which is not a fun thing to get. It affects your lungs and respiratory, and it's a very, very stubborn virus to get rid of. So we definitely don't want birds living in our house. Good way to do it, put a birdhouse out. If you got this here, seal it all up, put a birdhouse in your yard. They will go to the birdhouse first. It's easier. But the big damage that we get from birds will come from the woodpeckers. And this is damage from a woodpecker. They don't actually eat the wood, but rather they make holes in the wood to search for insects. And sometimes it's part of their mating as well, where there's certain things they do to attract a mate. But for the most part, they're looking for insects. The problem with the holes in the side of your house, it can allow water in. And this, you know, and other insects can get in. And then the birds are going to be looking for more insects. It's a compounding problem. So seeing this kind of thing here is definitely something we want to do. Sometimes carpenter bees will use these old holes to lay their eggs and establish a colony inside of the wall as well. So that's definitely something we don't want. We don't want the bees using the woodpecker holes to invade our home. It's very obvious if you have woodpeckers, you will hear them and you will see the damage to them. So what do we do with them? They're actually very hard to treat for because you're not allowed to kill them. It's actually against the law. Woodpeckers are a protected species. But you have to make the area inhospitable. You want to make them leave on their own. You don't want them to be happy. So use of netting. They use fake predators such as owls. Sometimes you go in, you see a plastic owl at the ridge of a house, and that's done to get rid of squirrels or woodpeckers. You can use a sprinkler on the home that's motion activated, because the birds don't want to hang on to a wet surface. So when they land on the side of your house, if you have an automated sprinkler, it'll sprinkle the side of the house and they'll leave. Eventually, they're going to get tired of getting wet and not having a place to stay, and they won't come back. Use reflective tape on the side of the home. Woodpeckers hate shiny surfaces. They just don't like it. We can replace the wood. That's the other thing we can do. Replace the wood with an alternate product. And that could be vinyl siding. They won't eat vinyl siding. They won't eat cement-based siding. It's too hard on their beaks for the cement base, but they will get through the wood. Generally, if you have woodpeckers, it indicates you may have a larger problem. And that's the problem might be insects. If you treat the insects in the wood, the woodpeckers will usually leave because there's no reason for them to expend that energy drilling holes in the side of your house if there's nothing for them there. So woodpeckers, they're out there, they're protected, very hard to get rid of, and they can do a lot of damage to a house. But always note that there are ways to fix it. You can get a professional in to do this as well if it's not something you want to do. It depends on how long they've been there, how established they are. You could be anywhere from $250 up to about $3,000 to treat for woodpeckers. And that would mean flashing over the holes, other things like that. I know I've inspected houses that had woodpecker damage, and basically they ended up replacing the wood siding with something that they wouldn't get on because they fought after them for so long. Thankfully, most houses aren't made of wood, but wood trim and that kind of stuff they'll go after as well. So covering them with aluminum is a good way to do it. So before we get into rodents, I'll ask if anybody has a question.
Don, with woodpeckers, should we be more concerned with decks?
They usually don't go after the deck.
Oh.
Because they want to be up high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and people and pets and everything will usually keep them away, but it's up high. They like to hang off and peck off the side of something. So they can go after decks if they have enough insects in them. A second story deck, maybe. But
yeah,
for the most part, they won't touch the little ones. The ones.
I'm thinking if someone has a walkout basement and the deck is quite high.
Yep.
Would the woodpeckers go after that?
Absolutely. Anything that's wood. The thing that saves most decks is that it's pressure treated wood and they really don't like it, and there's not a lot for them to eat.
Okay. And I think everybody is really using the pressure treated wood for decks nowadays.
Or they might use cedar.
Yeah.
And cedar's natural. They will burrow in cedar as well. But they like dry woods that have insects. So as long as your deck's in good shape, keep it well painted, and don't let the insects get into it, you should be fine.
Thanks.
No worries at all. Anybody else while we're on this subject? These guys are easy tonight. Either that or I'm explaining it properly. I don't know, one or the other. How about rodents? Everybody's seen one of these, I'm sure. He even looks mischievous, doesn't he? Looks like he's thinking there, what am I going to do next? Well, he's going to rip something off your house to get in. We got squirrels over here. They're pack rats. They're tree rats, but they collect a lot of seeds and they're very easy to find, but they can do a lot of damage to your house too. Rats, very popular, especially in the GTA, but we're seeing a lot more rat issues in Guelph as well. And it's just this, it's normal. We're going to get that. Larger cities get rats. That's the way it is. And especially if people aren't storing their garbage properly, aren't keeping their yards clean, rats have places to burrow. And then we got our little friends here, the mice. So when we talk about rodents, it's squirrel, mice, rats. They're very destructive. They can cause a lot of damage to a house if they're left unchecked. The nests and the feces are one thing, but they can also chew through wires in your home. A lot of the new wiring in houses is actually a vegetable-based wiring, and rodents like to chew on it. You'll find a lot of, there's been through a couple of houses now in the last few years that were so bad with rodents that the house had to be rewired, re-insulated, basically redone because they just let it go for so long. And you ask yourself, how can somebody let that go for so long? Most people wouldn't, but it does happen. Some people are just oblivious to it. They don't care. It's not their house. And that's where regular checks of rental units is always a good idea, looking for signs of rodents. The big signs you will find is the droppings from mice and rats. You likely won't find evidence of a raccoon inside of your house or a squirrel inside of your house, but you'll find those in your attic spaces. Rodents can carry a very carry diseases. They got a lot of them, hantavirus. So let's look here. Usually it's with contact with the waste. So we don't want to be playing with any of their droppings. We want to use proper protocols. We want to spray them down with some bleach and water or some alcohol to kill. But raccoons carry leptospirosis and roundworm, and those are two things you really don't want. Mice and rats carry the hantavirus. That's can be fatal if you get that. Squirrels actually carry a lot of things. Tularemia, typhus, the plague, and ringworm. I mean, these are not things we want to be able to get. There's a lot of inspectors who have gotten sick over the years from exposure to this by opening up an attic space and you have some raccoon feces there, or you have a squirrel nest, or you have a bird's nest, and you move things around and it gets those up into the air. So when you're dealing with an infestation of rodents, you really want a professional to take care of that. If you have a mouse and you trap it, that's different. But if you open a cupboard and the bottom of the cupboard is black because it's all filled with tiny mouse poops, call a professional. Okay, it's very important. So how do they get in? And why do they get in? And why are they in our house? They want to enter a home because it's dry. I mean, hey, if you were living outside, you'd want to come in too, right? I mean, that's just something that's natural. They want to find a warm, dry place to live. And they're looking for food. Again, there's a little bit of a theme going on here is get rid of the food. Don't leave food out, and you won't get mice. You won't get some of the other pests either. They'll enter through openings in the building. So it could be something, and we'll look at the different sizes, but they can go through the wall, the roof, and come down your chimney. And that raccoons and squirrels have been in houses because they'll just come down the chimney. Once they get going, they can't get back out, so they come into your house. And that's another reason why with the building code, they want to see chimney caps and stuff on it too, on chimneys, to prevent these guys from building nests in the chimneys and causing other issues. Mice and rats can enter through a hole as small as a dime. That is that big. You can get a little mouse hole through. It'd be about that big. Raccoons and squirrels, they can also enter through sewer pipes, which is not a place you want to find them. Raccoons and squirrels, they'll chew their way in. They'll lift roof shingles and tear out a roof vent, a raccoon will, to get into your building. They'll tear flashing off the side of a house. They will do what they need to do to get in. They're very, very tenacious. They will work and work and work until they get into that place because they know it's going to be warm. And because of the fact they're going in to get warm, this time of year is when we end up finding them. Mice and raccoons living in your house in the summer, not really a big deal. It's in the winter where we're going to have the issues because they want to get out of the cold. So how do we reduce rodents? We want to look at the reduction. So they can be deterred from coming into the home a couple of different ways. Again, removal of trees and bushes in contact with the home. That's just little elevators and stairways for them to get up to the areas they need to get up to, especially trees. They'll use the trees to gain access to the roof. Raccoons will climb a tree and they will jump from a tree onto the roof in order to get at that roof. They know where they're going. They're smart. Once they're on the roof, then they start removing shingles and they can enter the home. They're extremely destructive. If we make sure our windows and our screens and everything are in good shape, that can help reduce it as well. We had an issue in our house last year, and I'll send you a little personal here, but we would let the dogs out and leave the back door open for 20, 30 minutes while they're out running around. Guess what? Mice were coming in. We had a mouse come right in, and it was sitting in the living room just because we left that screen door open for a few minutes. So keep your screens closed. And this is obviously a picture of a mouse. You can see the scat around here, and that's what we're going to be seeing. Very small. Obviously, rats are going to be a little bigger. Squirrels a little bigger than that. And then once we get into raccoons, it looks like cat poop, really. And that's what you're going to look at. Best place to look if you have them in your house is open the attic hatch and look on top of the attic hatch. It's usually where the least amount of insulation is in the home, and it's the warmest spot, and they will gravitate towards the warmest spot. And that's why we have to be careful when we're lifting up attic lids that we don't disturb raccoon feces and that kind of thing. So how do we eliminate them? Mice and rats, they're going to require trapping and removal. Whether you do a live trap, whether you use a kill trap, that's really up to you. We need to seal off all the access points. We need to reduce their available food sources. The mice and rats and raccoons are the biggest thing that we're going to find. Use of poisons is allowed. It's not something that I would say is your first go-to, because you can get secondary poisoning of cats and dogs that are eating some of the rodents that will leave the house in search of water, and they'll die in a field or in your backyard. Dogs can eat them and they'll get a secondary poisoning from that. And that's not something we want to see. Squirrels require trapping and removal. And fortunately, squirrels need to be live trapped. We're not allowed to kill them inside of city limits. They can be hunted if they're outside of city limits. We got to seal those access points again. And again, you're going to watch your house so you can tell where they're going in. The number of times I've seen squirrels running into a house, next door doing an inspection is it's pretty intense. You can use deterrent sprays, things that they don't like. Peppermint oil, for example, is one thing that a lot of rodents don't like. Before you do that, you should do your research on what exact oils you're going to use. Any removal of squirrels and whatnot from attic spaces should be done by a professional. That's really the right way to do it. You can do some of your own if you get a live trap, but then you're dealing with I don't know if you've ever pulled a trap with a live squirrel in it. They are not happy to be in there. And they're very vicious, and you run the risk of being bit, even when you let them go. Raccoons, they require trapping and removal. It is against the law to kill a raccoon because they are considered the trash eaters of the mammal family. They do a lot of good. They eat dead stuff. They eat garbage and things that are left out. So they're not a bad thing to have around. We just don't want them in our house. You need to seal your access points. You cannot seal the access points at certain times of the year because you will trap the babies in the attic, and that is inhumane. And it is absolutely not allowed, and it is against the law to trap baby raccoons and let them starve to death. That is not an acceptable way to do it. So we have to wait until they're old enough to get moving. And again, that's for a professional. So when we get a professional in, they are going to go up in the attic and they're going to look and make sure there's no babies. If they find them, they're going to see how old they are. Then they're going to tell you, hey, we got 3 more weeks before we can come back and do this. And they're going to do it a little differently. They're going to use a one-way door to allow the raccoons to climb out, and they can't get back in. And that's the same with squirrels and same with bats. There's different mechanisms they're going to use. Then they're going to screen off the access points or repair the access points so they don't come back again. Obviously, the next question is, how much is this going to cost? Because it can get expensive. Mice and rats, $120 to get rid of them. Mice, $120. Rats, around $400. Squirrels, about $150 per animal. Raccoons can be $300 to $600, depending on how many there are and if they have babies. The costs obviously do not include repair of the areas. Generally, what a pest control person will do, if it's a raccoon entry point, they will put a screen over top of the entry point. They will secure it down so they can't pull it off and get back in the same spot. But that will need to be repaired eventually. So that's our rodent section. And I'm sure we're going to have a question or two about rodents.
大家对这一块有什么问题吗？ I'll start. Did you say it's illegal to kill squirrels and raccoons?
Yes, it is.
Wow. And then, so you mentioned about the attic. So is it advisable to put mice traps in the attic?
You can. The unfortunate part about that is you have to go and check them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good way to do it. Generally with attics, most people will use a poison in the attics, and they will trap them inside of their home. So even as a preventative measure, my attic, for example, I threw 4 bags of poison in my attic. If they do get in there, at least they're not going to cause damage and a big hoopla until I can actually hear them, right? So I've done that. But inside of the house, we use live traps or we use a kill trap. So
now, what did you put in the attic again? Poisonous?
they're little bags of mouse poison. You get a little bag, it's got little pellets in it. You just chuck one in each corner
Throw
of the
them
attic.
in the attic.
Yeah.
And what? Can you get them just like in any
Home
hardware
Depot,
store?
Canadian Tire, Home Hardware. Yep, they all have them.
Okay, so that's a good practice then.
Yep, it's not a bad thing to do to reduce it, especially if it's a house you're not living in. If you have an investment property, for example,
Yeah.
that's a great thing to do because we don't want them in there. Sometimes the squirrels will eat them. That's not always a bad thing, but because squirrels and raccoons are fur-bearing animals, they're actually protected.
Now, do you think it really helps to have a cat in the house for the mice and the rats?
Yeah, I think that would depend on the cat. So if you get
Sure.
Garfield in there, probably not.
Yeah.
But if you get a barn cat, probably they will. It really depends on the cat, but it's not a bad thing if you like cats.
Well, we've had mice issues in our rental property, and we did hire a professional to do it, but it came back. It wasn't like a permanent fix,
Yeah.
So we ended up buying those traps from dollar store, and my husband put a peanut butter on it, and then we do see them, trapped there.
Yeah. Peanut butter is a good one. I use bacon fat.
What did you use? Bacon?
Bacon fat.
Oh, bacon grease.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's harder for them to get off the little lever on the trap. Right? Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was 1 second. Probably about 4 or 5. That's a mouse trap. That one's under my fireplace all the time. That is set. So if you obviously they'll go and that's how they kill. But what I want to show you is something that I learned recently. Sorry, there's a little bit of dust on there. You apply your product to the bottom and let it come through. If you just set it on top, the mice can actually eat it off the top without setting the trap off. But if we put it on the bottom and push it through the little holes and ridges, you're more likely to catch a mouse.
Sorry, Don, what did you put in on the thing again?
This one here, I put bacon grease on the bottom.
On the bottom.
So I'll put it on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I push it up through the holes. So when the mice come, they have to try and eat through the holes. And that will be more successful at trapping them than if we just put a little piece on the top that they might be able to pick off or chew off
without being trapped.
Yep.
Any luck of getting the mice with this method in your house?
Absolutely. We had 6 or 7 this year.
Oh, wow.
I found the point, and if you go on my Facebook, you'll see where they were coming in.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about rodents?
Hey, Don.
Yes,
is that okay to put those mouse traps outside?
You can. It won't hurt anything, but they get washed off. But I would be more concerned about getting the entrance points than putting them outside if you can find them.
Yeah, sometimes they walk and trigger the alarm camera. Actually, can saw them climb up the wall. So I put there.
The mice are climbing up your walls?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I would put traps where you see them coming up because they'll usually follow the same trail all the time. And if you can see that, I would look where you're seeing them, and there's an opening somewhere that they're going to get into the house.
Yeah, sometimes the traps, those bigger ones like chipmunk and squirrels. So am I getting into trouble by doing that?
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
I mean, hey, it is what it is, right? I mean, you're not going after them, so it does happen. Did that answer your question, Ming?
Yeah.
Awesome. We had another one. What's the career outlook for pest experts? I mean, it's good money. It's a lot of hard work. It's physical labor. I'm not a pest control operator, but I mean, it can be a great opportunity, especially with some of the new things coming out. And if we get bed bugs here and other things, that's all included. But it's a good career. It's a good, honest living, that's for sure. Anybody else before we go to the next one? All right, so bats they're kind of weird looking. So bats are basically just a mouse with wings. And they're nocturnal. So what are bats good for though? Why do we need bats? Bats are great for keeping our insect population in control. And a bat will eat their weight in mosquitoes every couple of days. So that's great. But they're nocturnal, so you don't see them very often. It's not like you're sitting outside in the back porch on a sunny day and a bat flies by. That's not what you're going to see. You'll find them at night, and you can generally find the entrance points at dusk, because they'll fly out at dusk and they come back in the morning, and they'll feed all night. We have lots of different species in Ontario, but the most common ones are the little brown bats. Excuse me, I'm on rats still. The eastern small-footed bat, I'm going to say it every time, and the northern long-eared bat. Those are the ones that we normally would find. The big thing about bats is the guano, or the poop, for lack of better terms, is toxic. And it's usually found at the entrance points or the exit points of the building. So as soon as they're coming out of their nest or their home or their attic of your house, they're going to likely poop, and you'll find piles of it on the ground. Or as they're sleeping, they will drop some of their excrement, and you'll find piles of it. And that's a good indicator of bats. You'll have the big piles of bat guano, and that's very easy to identify. Even at night, during the day, even looking into an attic, they're hard to find. But they do carry something that's, again, histoplasmosis. It's found in the droppings of bats. It affects your lungs. It can be life-threatening if you have a weakened immune system, especially. It's transmitted through inhaling the spores from the droppings. It's the fungus that grows on it that causes it. And the same with birds. When you're disturbing the droppings, they get into the air and you breathe them in. Those funguses and the bacteria and stuff get into your lungs. And most of these, the effect of these will be lung related. Okay. How do we remove bats? They can really get into your house in very small holes, basically the size of a quarter. They're difficult to get rid of because their entry points are very hard to find. So again, we're going to go outside if we think we have bats at dusk or first thing in the morning, right when the sun's coming up. They're going to come back to roost. And when they come back to roost, that's when you want to see where they're getting into the building. And that's how, we're going to let them get out at night. We're going to close it off at night. So they have to find an alternate place. So remediation of bats, a lot of the work has to be done at night because you don't want to trap them in your attic again. That's just not something we want to do. And bats are protected as well. So killing of bats is not allowed. So they have to be dealt with humanely. They'll use a one-way access point at the door sometimes as well. But, we found that spot, so we can put that door in. It's got a little flap on it. So when the bat can actually come down and through, pushes the gate up, but it can't get back in. So they can't come back in. And I'll show you a picture of one of those here in a second. An alternate way to get rid of your bats is provide them with a different place to live. Put a bat house in your yard, up in a tree. Plans for bat houses are available online. They're very simple to make. You want bats in the area. They're good. They will reduce the number of mosquitoes and other insects that are mostly the flying ones. And again, it is against the law to kill any bats. They are protected. And here we can see a couple of things. This is how they sleep. All bundled together. They're all hanging upside down. They do that for warmth. Okay. But if we look at the picture below, see this pile here? This is underneath these guys. They're up here, and guess what? This is all their excrement down here, and this is a very telltale sign if you have bats. Here is one of these one-way screens. You can see here the bats can come out, but they can't go back in. This is another iteration of it as well. You can see they were just getting in around the bottom of the flashing.
Don, what's that underneath again? I didn't.
Which one?
What's underneath the pile? Underneath the bats?
right here. This is a pile of bat poop.
Oh, okay.
Yep, bat poop. And that's exactly what it is. And that's how you, this is a very, like when I do an inspection on a house, I'm not a rodent professional, but I am trained in how, what to look for in identifying different types of rodents, because we want to comment on these things if we're looking at a house. And this is a common sign. This is exaggerated. These have been here a long time. Sometimes it'll just be a small circle, you know, the size of a dinner plate, and it won't be very thick. The longer they're there, the bigger the pile gets. And that's the one thing you need to know. So we have this great big pile. These have been here for a long time.
Now, is this picture taken in an attic too?
Yeah, this is an attic. This is the bottom of your chimney.
I guess you get a lot of surprises when you check attics.
Yep. When you have a raccoon staring you in the face, that's not fun either. So let's get rid of these guys. Removal and cleanup should be done by a professional. You want it done humanely and safely. Bats, one of the misconceptions of bats you'll hear is, oh, I don't want bats, they're going to get in my hair. They don't want to get near you. They're more afraid of you than you are of them. They can get tangled up in things. Bats are actually very, very intelligent. They use a sonar to locate, and so they can actually fly through the air very quickly and miss things because they're using their sonar. And they're really unique mammals. And they do hibernate as well, and that's one thing that's important to know. So they're not active during the winter. Cost of removal can be expensive, $300 to $600 for a small number of bats. It can be as high as $8,000 in the case of a large colony, and it's a large cleanup because that all has to be done by a professional. We don't want to be getting histoplasmosis. We don't want to be spreading these fungal spores into our home. And that's it for bats. Batman and Robin, there we go. Any questions on bats? I know somebody had a question earlier.
Yeah. So Don, is that true that if I play some of the ugly noise, also I can buy those pest sound generators from Amazon? Are they help?
I don't know if they actually do anything, to be honest with you. I've seen yes and no on them. I see a lot of them around. The funny thing is you see a lot of them in houses and there's mouse poop around them. So I don't know if it is. There probably are some higher end devices that you could get. I wouldn't rely on something from Amazon. I would probably want to talk to a pest control company and see what they would recommend. Because you don't want to waste your money buying these $10 and $20 things when maybe you can spend $100 and it's taken care of. But that's the question I really can't answer. I'm going to look it up though and see if I can find an answer for you.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And here's the one that we don't want to talk about because this is gross. These guys freak me out. Long antenna, they're just not something I like to see. But as landlords and homeowners, I mean, we want to make sure that we don't have these spreading throughout our buildings because they are very hard to get rid of. They reproduce quickly. So let's talk about cockroaches. Common species found in Ontario are the German cockroach and the Oriental cockroach. Those are the two that are most common. They are very quick in reproduction. They are mostly nocturnal. They do not like to be out during the day. They like warm, moist areas. So areas like under refrigerators, in your kitchens and bathrooms. You'll find them under the kitchen sink a lot of time. They're difficult to control and they can spread easily. You can pick up cockroach eggs on your shoes from a contaminated building and bring them home to your own house. And now you'll have a cockroach problem in your own house. It does happen. If you stayed in a hotel room that had cockroaches and they were crawling around at night, you can bring some of them home with you in your suitcase. You can bring the eggs home with you. So they're very hard to control once they get a foothold, okay? The biggest thing to do is, if you stayed in a hotel room that was a little bit questionable, and we've all done it, I'm sure, as soon as you get home, everything goes in the dryer, run it on a hot cycle. Or wash it in really hot water. That'll help kill the eggs. But they do attach to your shoes and clothing very easily. When we talk about remediation or treatment, it involves using chemical. Okay, there's nothing else we can do. They have to be done chemically. So, and this is not done by a homeowner either. Unfortunately, the chemicals are pretty dangerous, and they will put they use like a caulking tube. Now, if you know what a caulking tube is for caulking around your showers or outside, and it has a chemical in it that's a gel, and they will put that under sinks. They'll put it in strategic areas around an infected home, and generally you're looking between $300 and $600 to treat for cockroaches. But I will tell you that it will take multiple treatments in order to get rid of them completely. One treatment will kill the adults. The next treatment will kill the adults that are hatching from the eggs they've already laid, and might need a third one. After that, they're usually under control. But you really have to stay on it and follow the recommendations of a pest control operator. Oops. So cockroaches, I'm going to stop there with cockroaches. And if we have any questions, basically, just go ahead and ask. I guess that was pretty clear, eh? They're ucky bugs and they're hard to get rid of. These are the ones that are making a good comeback now. And this is a very hard to control bug as well. Bed bugs, and we can see there's the size of a bed bug. If you've never seen one, that is what they look like. They will get a little bit bigger as they feed because they're gorging, and we'll talk about what they eat. So bed bugs are small, oval. They're brown colored. They live on the bloods of animals or humans, and that's what they eat. An adult bed bug will have a flat body, and it's about the size of an apple seed. So if we look back at that picture there, pretty flat body. You can see here the adult, and it's about the size of an apple seed. After feeding, their bodies can swell, and they become reddish brown in color because they're drinking blood. They're little vampires. Bed bugs don't fly, but they can move quickly over floors, walls, and ceilings. A female bed bug can lay hundreds of eggs, each of which is the size of a speck of dust over a lifetime. Very hard to find the eggs when they're the size of a piece of dust. You'd never be able to find them. So where do we find them? Well, we're going to find them near the tags of mattresses and the box spring. They'll get under the little tags and whatnot. In the cracks of the bed frame and headboards, good places to find them. In your baseboards. They'll crawl in behind the baseboards for protection. Between couch cushions. In the joints of furniture. It could be, where you have a pleat in the leather, you'll find them in there. In furniture, inside electrical outlets, they'll get in there for the warmth. Under loose wallpaper, they just want to hide. And these are, if we could take this exact same thing and we could put it into cockroaches, because you can find them, all cockroaches in those places as well. But the difference between the bed bugs, they don't need the moisture like the cockroaches like. In the seam where the wallpaper and the ceiling meet, you'll find them as well. And bed bugs are really difficult to get rid of. They're easy to transport. Again, like a cockroach, you could take them in the eggs can come in on your shoes, clothing from hotels and other homes. Typically we'll find them in beds, and they'll group together, but they can be found in couches, rugs, and other areas like we talked about. And they feed at night. So while you're sleeping, this is when they feed. And if you look here, the picture here, these are bed bug bites on somebody's arm, I think it is. That's just a generic picture I took from the internet. You can see there's quite a few of them were feeding there, I think. And that's going to be really itchy. You can get scarred from them and whatnot. So that's definitely something we don't want. But how do we get rid of them? Well, for bed bugs, what we want to do is remove the bed bugs without chemicals. That's the first thing we should try. They're pretty easy to kill with high heat, anything over 46 degrees Celsius, or intense cold, less than 0 degrees Celsius. Or if you want to use Fahrenheit, it's there as well. So one of the big things is washing our bedding in hot water and drying your bedding in a dryer. That will kill anything that's on it. Vacuum up any affected areas and dispose of the dirt from your vacuum. Don't leave it in there because it will continue to grow. If we think we have an infestation or we stayed in a hotel room and we wake up in the morning and we got bites on us, well, you're going to leave your clothes outside, and if it's in the winter, If it's in the summer, you're going to take everything in and directly right into the washing machine, hot water, hot, dry. There are chemicals for treatment, and they have great success as well. If your treatment that you're trying your own or the off-the-shelf chemicals, which you can do yourself, if they don't work, then you should get a professional in. Don't let them get so far out of control, because they get very, very expensive to treat the more we have and the more infestation we have. The cost of treatment is approximately $800 to $2,000, and it depends on the severity again. I would really lump bed bugs and fleas in the same type of category, because they both are very similar. Fleas mostly like, animals, but once they get established in your house, they are super hard to get rid of. We had a place I lived in Kingston, and the gentleman I lived with there, my roommate, he brought home a cat, and the cat had fleas, and the fleas took over the entire house. I mean, we spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars getting rid of these fleas from a stupid cat. But same with the bed bugs. It will cost you a lot to get rid of them. So just be careful with what you're taking home with you. And if you see the signs, take care of it immediately. Don't let it go. So that's it for bed bugs. Any questions on bed bugs? Nobody? All right. Next one's my favorite. So we're going to talk about bees. I love bees. This is a mason bee. This is a carpenter bee here, and these are honeybees. So we have lots of different types of honey. So let's look here. So what do bees do? Why we want to talk about the good first before we talk about the bad, right? Bees in houses, it happens, and it happens more often than we think. And this could range for hornets, and this could be yellow jackets or wasps. All follow under this category. And they all do the same thing. They're the pollination. That's how we get our food. And there's many different types of bees. There's over 400 species in Ontario. The most common of them are honeybees, mason bees. But so honeybees can sting, which is bad, same as wasps and hornets. And they can build large honey hives inside of walls and empty cavities, attics, etc. We have mason bees. And they're more of a solitary bee. They don't build big colonies, but they can cause damage to wood and mortar, where they burrow into wood and they lay their eggs. And then, the eggs hatch and come out. And that's sort of a cycle they go through. But they're not big colonies. Whereas honeybees, you have a huge, huge colony of honeybees. You can have thousands of bees in a colony. And then we have carpenter bees. And these are the ones that can do some damage. They tunnel into the painted wood, unpainted wood, or unsealed wood. They'll actually tunnel in to lay their eggs, same as a mason bee. But unlike termites, bees don't eat the wood. They're not interested in the wood. They're interested in using the wood as a shelter. So that's the big difference. So they don't do the structural damage that something like a termite would do. But they can, if enough of them are around and they build a colony, you can have some issues with them in your walls. So when we look at what bees are, so let's go to the next slide here. This is these are honeybees, and this is the hive that somebody is looking after. These can be 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 tall, depending on where they are, and you'll have thousands of bees in these. So when we talk about bee removal, we shouldn't be killing bees. We shouldn't kill them off if possible. Removal of bees, especially a large hive in a wall, should be done by a professional. And if it's honeybees, they can be rehomed. And generally you'll find they'll swarm. And that's where they get into other areas. So honeybees swarm when they have an extra queen in the hive. So if a new queen is born, and we can get into a lot about bees if anybody wants to have a side topic after. I used to raise them. But for the topic of this, if they get another queen, they can't have 2 queens in a hive. You can't have 2 queens on the monarchy either. You can only have 1 at a time. So half of them leave and half of them stay. They grow, they find a new place, they grow. And that's how bees expand. Okay. It's a very natural thing for them to do. Most beekeepers have measures they take in order to not have another queen born, because they don't want to lose their half their hive. Okay. But if we find them in a wall of a house or we find a swarm, they can actually be picked up, and usually for free if they're outside. If they're in the walls, it's gonna cost you some money. But the beekeepers want them because they can establish a new colony from that. And if you look at if anybody's ever seen a swarm of bees, it'll be a whole bunch of bees hanging off a tree. In the center of that is the queen. They all accumulate and hang off the queen. Okay, and they're protecting her. That's what they're doing. The swarms can be very aggressive, and it's very easy to get stung. So as we look at removal costs, if they've established a hive in your wall or the attic of a home, it can be expensive to remove because you have to remove everything. You're gonna have to get rid of the honeycombs. You're gonna have to get rid of the honey. You're gonna have to get rid of the baby bees, or the pupa, they call them. So there's a lot of cost involved in doing that. Solitary bees can generally be taken care of very easily, average of $300 to get rid of mason bees or carpenter bees. I've seen carpenter bee damage a few times. I've never specifically seen mason bee damage, but we do have a hive in the backyard for mason bees. We're trying to encourage them. And they're good for the environment, but we just don't want them in our house. So best way to find out where they are is to sit outside and watch where the bees go. They will go in to the small openings at the bottom of the brick where we have our weep holes. Don't caulk those over, close them up. Those are there for a reason. And we'll find a lot of times people go put caulking on the bottom to get rid of insects. Wrong thing to do, because that's going to actually cause the brick on the house to deteriorate. So it's very important that you do things right. If you need, specific recommendations, it's always great Google's a great place to start. Call a pest control operator. If you can't get an answer, send us an email as well. We can definitely be able to answer a question or two. So, question on bees. Pretty quiet, eh? I'm sure we're going to have some questions at the end, so we'll save it for there. So there's lots of other pests that could be involved in the home. They can be insects, they can be mammals, but these that we talked about are the most common. Okay. Anytime we're using chemicals, you should always, follow the manufacturer's instructions or consult a professional to do it. You want to be safe, and you want to make sure that you're not using chemical and using too much of it and just wasting product, because some of these products can be very expensive. And I want to say thank you to everybody, and I want to open it up for any questions you have.
Don, do you mind unshare the screen? I just want to share the website that you shared at the beginning. Some people might not heard that. Yeah, in the chat section, I put 2 websites in there of pest control operators. Yeah, so Don shared this website, Orkins Canada. I've heard about them. It's a pest control company, and they do residential and commercial. So if you guys want to just keep this up for your record in the future, if you need help with, any pest issues. And the other one that I sent you, Skedaddle, they do more of the bigger type things, raccoons and bats and whatnot. Orkins mostly on the getting rid of mice and rats and cockroaches and that kind of stuff. So there's different people have different specialties, because you can't be all things to all people. Yeah, of course. All right, so let's see here. Excellent, thank you. So what do we have? I'm sure we have 1 or 2 questions. Don't feel shy. Anything you want to know, feel free to ask. That's why I'm here. And if it's not rodent and related, ask me a question anyway.
Don, I have a question.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
Yeah, good. Don, thank you for teaching us about all the things about. So my question is, when we buy the house, particularly old house.
Yep.
Does the home inspection will be check all of these things or not?
So that's a good question. I mean, under the home inspection guys, no. Rodents and insects and things are excluded from it because you have to have a special license for it. My company offers the service, and it's part of what we call our premium package. And we do a rodent inspection. We look for signs of insects and infestations. But not everybody does that. I mean, if there's obvious signs, if I open an attic hatch and there's bats in there, I'm not going to ignore them. We're going to tell you. You know, that's the way it works, especially with my company. We're going to tell you what we find. We may not write certain things up because we're not allowed to, but definitely you will know if you have bats or raccoons or mice. And can I add that every house has had a mouse, have a mouse.
Oh, I see. So how much they will be charged if the extra or no extra charge?
If you pick, so we have different packages, but if you take our middle package, there's no extra charge that's included.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh,
so I mean, if it's something you're concerned about, if you are buying a house, and you just give us a call and we can talk to you about the options we have. Definitely. And you know, finding these, it's not that hard for me to find. I've been doing this for a long time. And I actually will find more rodent or termites than the termite inspectors find, because we're looking in different places that they are able to look. So we're very successful in terms of finding these things for you.
Okay, Don, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to add to that too, Don, is that because of the crazy market we're in right now, I'm going to share a little bit up afterwards too, is that a lot of people are going in with offers without conditions. So they are waiving the home inspection condition. But with my own experience working with Don last year, is that I had actually quite a number of buyers that were very hesitant to put an offer without a home inspection. So what I did with my clients was that I asked Don to come in to do an inspection prior to putting an offer in. So the clients kind of knew about the condition of the house prior for them to put an offer in. And I think that is a very great strategy because, you know, without a home inspection, you know, obviously it depends on the age of the house too, but I think you're taking quite a big risk as a home buyer.
Yeah, and I can add to it. So what we do is called a consult. It's a 1 hour. And it's top to bottom, but we're not writing big report. We're not writing reports. We're not taking photos. It's more of a consultation for you. And it works very well. And we would find bats, or we would find signs of rodents. We would, all that stuff would be seen because we're checking the perimeter of the house when we go through. So thank you for that.
Yeah, because I mean, for home buyers, they might not really need the actual report, you know. So I always go with Don and the home buyer, and we take notes, you know, we take pictures ourselves, so we know what to expect. I just think that it gives the buyer the extra security when they're buying a house without, you know, especially in this bidding war.
Absolutely, and we only do the short inspections on multiple offer situations. We don't. That's not our business. We do it to help you out, but we only do it on the multiple offers.
But the thing is, multiple offers are everywhere now.
I know right now we're doing a lot of them, but if it's a normal market, we don't offer those if you have a contingency period. So
yeah. Well, we hope that the market will be back to a bit of a more balanced market.
I hope so. That would be nice. Anybody else with a question?
I don't. Here's a very specific question about the topic. You talk about the ant.
What's
and
that?
A couple of times, I actually in my home, maybe because some food left on, you know, some food trays on the floor.
Yeah.
And just came out, and at one time I tried to put a couple of you know, a small round box of ant trapper.
Yep.
The purchase, and the ant just came out continuously in a line, you know, it never ends. So I end up get rid of those and try to clean up the floor, and eventually it stopped.
Yeah.
So my question here is, even though the ant hasn't, you know, show up for quite a while, and are they going to die in the wall, or do something?
No, you're fine. If most of the time they don't have big nests in your house, but even if they did, quite honestly, they're insects. Unless you have lots of them, you're not going to have any smells or anything. There's no real adverse effects to it.
So no need to worry about it.
No, don't worry about that at all. But I will say something about those little round traps. You see the trail coming to them. That's a good thing, because the poison in there, they're taking back to the nest, and then they're eating it in the nest. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks for it to kick in because you want to get enough of that in there. So it's and some of them actually just instead of killing them, what it does is interrupts their breeding process so that they can't breed, so they don't produce new ants because they're feeding that food, and the colony will eventually dwindle and go away. So just seeing a line there is not a bad thing as long as the traps are fairly fresh.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Hi, Don. Can I have a question for you?
Absolutely.
Regarding actually spider. My house is about 15, 16 years old.
Yep.
But from most recent 2 to 3 years, there are always some outdoor spider comes into the house from springtime, early spring until fall. So they're giant and creepy.
Yes, they are. You have to burn your house down.
Yeah, they're giant.
The only thing you can do, you're gonna have to burn the house down. Sorry. I said you'll have to burn your house down. That's all. No, spiders are one of those things that's very hard to get rid of too. We get them in our house every now and then. What I do once a year in the spring is I get 2 cans of indoor Raid, the spider killer, and I spray my house. Start in the basement, and I just if I get into little cavities and I spray above the ceilings if I have drop ceilings, and then we go out for a couple of hours and then come home, and you know what? We don't see them again till the next year.
What kind of spray you use?
Just Raid.
I use one shot.
Sorry?
I use one shot.
Yeah, one shot will work too. But get the one specifically for spiders if you're having the spider issue. And like I said, just spray the whole house. So you'll have a fog in the house. Walk backwards as you're leaving so you're not breathing that stuff in. And just get out of the house for a couple hours, come back, and you should be fine. Take your pets out too.
I'm wondering where the spiders comes in.
I wish I knew that answer to that question, to be honest with you, because I would probably be very wealthy. But I don't know where they come in. They can, like a spider, they can crawl in and they can be around your door. And when you open the door, they can sneak into the house. You know, when you open a window, they're behind the screens, they can get in. And spiders are very, very hard to determine where they're coming in. And there's not one real entry point that you're going to find. So in my opinion, just make sure you're sealed up around your doors and your windows, and make sure you have good weather stripping around them, and then treat for them, and it should reduce them.
Okay, I checked with my neighbors. They have no issue about that. Only my house. So
yeah, so they're probably coming in through cracks and gaps, and that's where they're going to come in. If they have older windows, sometimes that'll happen. Older doors a lot of times because they're not sealing properly. So I would seal around the windows and doors first, and then give yourself a treatment and see if that helps.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with somebody like Orkin, and they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Is it possible? Do I have to get help from the professionals?
Well, yeah, if that doesn't take care of it, and spraying, yes, definitely. If that doesn't work, I would go to a professional.
Okay, and can I ask you again about the the spray you use?
Raid.
What did you use?
Raid.
Raid. Oh, yep. Okay, Raid. Okay,
do you mind just put in a chat box, Don?
Done.
Raid, R-A-I-D, spider killer.
Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for the question.
Anyone else have any questions for Don?
Hi, Don. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can, Kevin. Thank you.
Very well.
Hey, just a quick question. I think I have 2 questions. First, so do you come to Mississauga to do that home inspection, or only in that Kitchener area?
We can come to Mississauga if you're working with somebody from this area, like as a realtor. Yeah, absolutely. I've been to Mississauga a few times. I go to London. I go to Brantford. We go all the way up to Mount Forest, Listowel. So we're willing to travel.
Nice. So another question is, so do you guys only do that kind of a pet or like the past, the inspection, or you also inspection the whole house for structure or all those kind of pipe? What kind of home inspection you do?
Okay, so for the home inspection, we do Canadian Association of Home and Property Inspections, certified inspections. So top to bottom, structural, electrical, plumbing, roof, foundation. We're going to check the appliances. We're going to check every drain in the house. It's a really extensive product. So
is that one inspector or like the different kind of people doing the different perspective?
We do. All of our inspectors are trained to do the entire house. So we don't need to bring somebody in for different areas. Sometimes we'll have 2 inspectors. During COVID, we're not allowed to, so it's just 1 per house right now. But if we're not in COVID, we'll bring 2 people in. I usually have 1 guy do the outside and 1 guy do the inside. It's usually me that does the inside. But
so basically, it's those are the standard home inspection. They
absolutely,
don't including they don't do that the past like the inspection. So
no, but we do have that as an option, and we do have that as an option. Yeah.
Okay. So for that, the past the inspection, how much is the cost for one time?
Depends on the house. I'm going to put these here to show everybody. But yeah, it depends on the house. Could be anywhere from $425 up to $600.
Yeah, Kevin, I just want to add to that. Depends on the size of the house too. So before you book an appointment, they will ask for the size of the house as well.
Yeah, we custom quote, so it's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
If you have a smaller house, we charge you less. If you have a bigger house, we charge you more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also put Don's email on the chat box if you guys want to get hold of him. They're very responsive. Usually get replies very quickly. If you have any questions, you can also email him. He's very helpful.
Yeah, if you have just generic questions, email's always the best because I don't carry a phone during the day. I have one in the truck, but Susan runs the office, and she'd be more than she knows how to get a hold of me. And she does all our bookings as well. So when you call in, you're going to mostly talk to Susan. If you have a specific question, she'll ask me to reach out to you.
Nice. So the last question. So for those kind of antique inspection, so that's the home for all those pest or animals. So inside the antique, there are installation like different stuff inside. It's very hard to find anything. It's full of all the stuff. Are you recommending the person to do, like the homeowner, to go into the antique to do the inspection themselves, or hire somebody to do it to do the job?
It depends on what your comfort level is. If you're okay with a flashlight up there, you can inspect most of it from the ceiling. It's hard sometimes to know what you're looking for, and that's one of the hard parts. But definitely stick your head up and see what you see. If you don't see anything, then you can always call somebody in to have a look.
Okay. How often you recommend a homeowner go into the antique to check? Every 2 years, every 3 years, or usually? The Mississauga, kind of the south.
So do you want? My recommendation would be every 6 months. And how often do I actually go in mine? It's been a while.
Okay.
To be honest with you, we go up once a year to throw some mouse poison in, and that's about all we do.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Great questions, Kevin.
Yeah. So this is what we use here. You can see that product,
or the spider.
There's the specific spider one, Spider Blaster.
In my antique, so like right now I'm in the bedroom. So above the bedroom, there's some kind of the sound. I didn't hear kind of any crawling, the kind of the rhythm. Like once in a while, have some sound. Do you recommend to go there? Is that kind of thinking that's the guest in my antique? Or you think that's proper structure?
Could be. It depends what's going on. You'll hear, generally if you have mice, you'll hear scratching. They'll scratch.
No,
but sometimes you won't hear anything.
It's kind of that kind of sound.
Okay.
Is that kind of like structure, or is it?
No, it could be just the could be wind too. Sometimes if it's not happening all the time, it could just be wind.
Okay. Thank you, Don.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hi, Don. I have one more quick question.
Absolutely.
For the centipedes or millipedes in the basement.
Yep.
You know the one, multiple legs.
Right there.
What's that?
Raid Max. You just spray around the corner, around the outside of your home. The centipedes and millipedes. Now there's different types. There's what they call a house centipede. And I don't have a picture one. They have really long legs on them. They're disgusting, but they're very good for the house. They don't bite. They actually eat spiders and other things. But if you're getting the little, sometimes they'll call them little potato bugs or pill bugs. And the millipedes are generally there because you've got a little bit of moisture getting in at the bottom of your foundation or along the foundation. For that, the best defense for you as a homeowner is to make sure we regrade around the house, get our downspouts as far away as possible, and reduce any moisture coming into the house. That's the best way. And then just spray around around the perimeter of the basement, or you can use what they call diatomaceous earth, and I'll write that in here for you.
Okay, you mean outside of the house and inside of the house?
Both.
Once a year?
Diatomaceous earth is I don't know if I spelled that right, but it's very similar to that spelling. If you type it into Google, you'll find it. It's a type of powder, and it's very sharp, very pointed edges on it. So millipedes and centipedes have their feet are very sensitive. So if they step on it, it'll actually cause them to die.
Okay. So we can do just once a year or multiple
Yeah, once
times?
a year, just a little line around the outside, around in the areas you have. And it's an old school way of doing it, but it's very effective.
Normally in springtime?
Yep.
Or wintertime?
Doesn't matter when you do it, when you remember.
Okay.
Or when you start seeing them again, that's when you want to do it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
They're so scary. Yeah.
I don't like them either, but
I hate any multiple legs.
Yeah, anything with multiple legs, I'm out. So I'm with you there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.